Hey everyone, and welcome to our series on discursive writing. In this introductory video, we're going to be covering the essentials of discursive writing. First, we'll define what a discursive text is and contextualize it within Module C. Then we'll briefly look at the defining features of discursive writing, and to cap off, we'll explore when you might choose to write discursively. So, let's dive right into it. Let's start by defining what a discursive text is. The Nessa Glossary offers us a helpful starting point and defines discursive as texts whose primary focus is to explore an idea or variety of topics. These texts involve the discussion of a topic, ideas, or opinions without the direct intention of persuading the reader, listener, or viewer to adopt any single point of view. So basically, discursive pieces aim to make their readers consider a range of different perspectives on an issue, rather than persuade them to think in a single way. To give you a better idea, discursive texts typically include texts like feature articles, creative nonfiction, blogs, personal essays, documentaries, and speeches. So now that we've covered a basic definition, let's take a look at some of the defining features of discursive writing to get a clearer picture of what it actually is. The key feature that sets discursive writing apart from other text types, like essays and persuasive texts, is that they explore topics, usually controversial topics, in an unbiased way. So basically, the composer doesn't push one position or point of view, but instead gives equal consideration to arguments for and against. The aim of this, and of discursive texts in general, is to engage your reader in a lively discussion on a topic and provoke thought. Basically, they just want their audience to think. While composers may suggest a position or point of view, usually there's no intention to convince the reader to reach the same conclusion. The second most important defining feature is the tone or register of discursive writing. Unlike conventional essays, discursive writing is more informal and relaxed. The tone of discursive is usually conversational, using humour and personal anecdotes. Discursive essays can use figurative and imaginative language, or they might be more factual. In other words, there are far fewer restrictions when it comes to your writing style when compared to essays. Your language can be a mix of informal and formal register, which gives you the freedom to develop your own distinct style and voice. The third feature that is important in distinguishing discursive writing from other styles is the sort of evidence or substantive material you'll use in your discussion. Unlike conventional essays that require quotes and analysis, or persuasive and informative texts which require more factual evidence to back up a particular argument, the evidence you use in discursive texts can be less formal. You can of course integrate evidence like statistics, but you can and should also use anecdotes and events as evidence. So we can draw from real-life personal experiences or from wider reading, something we can call informal evidence. So we can see that discursive writing is pretty different from the other styles of writing in this module, with a number of distinctive features that set it apart from the rest. So that brings us to an important question. Why choose to write a discursive piece? In the HSC, it's highly likely that you'll be given the option to write in whichever style you prefer, whether it be an imaginative, persuasive, discursive, or even an informative composition. But the main appeal of discursive writing is that it's far more relaxed and conversational than other mediums. It doesn't call for the analytical precision of persuasive texts or the level of creativity demanded by an imaginative piece. But beyond this, there are a few situations where discursive writing really comes in handy. The first situation where this comes in handy is when you really can't decide your stance on a topic. In other words, when you're stuck on the fence and want to discuss both sides to the argument. Unlike persuasive pieces that force you to present a strong argument in favour of one perspective, discursive writing allows you to analyse a topic from all angles, without the pressure of picking a side. This is especially helpful if your question involves a more open-ended stimulus, or asks you to discuss a topic where you can't really make up your mind. Second, discursive writing is useful when you want to explore more controversial or personal topics, things like culture, race, and gender. Sometimes it can be a tad tricky to directly discuss more complex topics in an imaginative form, where there are so many elements like setting, plot, and character to consider. At the same time, persuasive and informative texts don't allow for much emotional and personal engagement. Discursive writing, on the other hand, allows you to balance a more detailed discussion with a personal and emotional tone. Last but not least, discursive writing is handy when you want some freedom to experiment with language, but don't want to fully commit to writing creatively. Discursive texts can be seen as a nice hybrid or middle ground between imaginative and persuasive. They allow you to play around with more creative and figurative language features and devices without having to craft characters, a plot, and a setting like you do with imaginative pieces. At the same time, you don't have to memorize evidence and statistics like with persuasive texts, but you still have a basic structure to guide your composition. So we can see that discursive writing has quite a few perks, bridging the creative freedom of imaginative with the formality and precision of persuasive and informative writing. And that's a wrap. In this video, we looked at the basics of discursive writing. We defined what discursive writing is, a text that explores a number of angles to a topic. We also examined the main defining features of this text type, namely the discussion of multiple perspectives, the more relaxed register and style, and the more informal evidence included. To cap off, we placed discursive writing in the broader context of Module C, looking at why you might choose to write a discursive over the other styles of writing in the HSC. And that brings us to the end of the video. See you next time!